Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello, good evening, and yes, welcome. And here we are yet again, a Saturday night on Manx Radio, 9 o'clock. It is Jumpin' In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz. And you might have realised there was a slightly different start. Where is he? A bit poorly, I'm afraid to say. Yes, there is the lurgy going around, I'm afraid, and we've all been there. Get well soon, jazz friend and bro. We're missing you. Anyway, we're going to carry on as best we can, soulless. So, I'll get to play with whatever's going on. We're going to have a little bit, I noticed, tone poem. Jazz critics topping the poll in many ways. There's that wonderful from Oregon. Going to dip into that again. A bit of Porgy and Bess, maybe. And the old flame, Billy Hart from years back. I picked something up on that. We like to get going normally, don't we? With a big band. And just because he's not here, I think we'll stay to remember him. If he's listening. We're going to start with the big band anyway. I bet he recognises this one. But do you? Terrific stuff. Really enjoyed that one and been enjoying this album, what I've heard of it so far. Not all of it, the very latest from Catherine Windfeldt. Determination, it is called, the Catherine Windfeldt and the Bohuslän Big Band. And yes, we'll be hearing more from this album in weeks to come when we launch into our London Jazz Festival special. We've got a great interview with Catherine. Wonderful to talk to her, a real character, very bright and breezy. She comes straight from the airport, from Copenhagen, I think, carried a bag in, was introduced to us into Ronnie Scott's and said, yes, come through, I'll talk to you now. No, oh gosh, I've got to settle down, I've got to have a cup of tea, or no, I must do my sound check. No, she spoke to us first, more than happy, really a great pleasure talking to her, and then performed with her sextet later that evening. Wonderful sound as well. We'll be hearing more from this great album. Determination's just out, I believe. She was she said, I've got my new one with me now, why don't you have a listen to that? And we picked up one of her former ones as well. We've also himself has featured Catherine before, having become something of a fan, quite rightly so. And yeah, this latest one is wonderful. Determination with the Bohuslän Big Band. She said it's been a great pleasure to work with them. The band themselves say they believe that she's one of the most exciting names on the Scandinavian jazz scene. I'm not going to disagree with that. Working with her own big band in Denmark, pushing the boundaries of modern big band music. Yeah, I think she is. It's really giving it a real modern twist. She contacted them, the Bohuslän Big Band, who are a big band in Sweden, in 2019, explained she'd followed the band for several years and had an appreciation of their high level of ambition and creativity. It was a bit of a mutual flattery club, and they got together. Great idea. Catherine had been composer in residence at the Vara Concert Hall in 2020 and started writing music for the band. And they further developed that through workshops and such like, getting together. They say the result is in your hands. It is here. You can hear it. It is this CD, Determination, a music full of emotion, expression and colour. A creative combination, it says, where tradition meets innovation. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. A really wonderful one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of that. The Bohuslän Big Band, Catherine Windfeldt, Determination, and it's on the Propphone label, Swedish jazz. More from Catherine, probably more from that album, when we hit into our London Jazz Festival specials in a week or two times. The Bohuslän Big Band, by the way, came out of, originally, they were a military band, started out in the 19th century, but these days play music by the likes of, Catherine, Frank Zappa, and Maria Schneider. It is Jumpin In, just H with you today. Sadly, the other jazz cat is feeling a little below the par, so he's staying at home for a few dreamies and curled up in his basket until next week, and hopefully he'll be back to full strength. It is that time of the year when the jazz polls come out, and for one magazine at least, Jazzwise, who tops their record of the year? Well, this man.
Hi, this is Craig Taborn, and you're listening to Jumpin' In with H and Chris on Manx Radio.
Dostojno jest Jakowo istinu, blažitića Bogorodicu, prisno blaženuju i preneporočnuju, i Mater Boga našego. Dostojno jest Jakowo istinu, blažitića Bogorodicu, prisno blaženuju i preneporočnuju, i Mater Boga našego. Čestnejšuju keruvim i slavnejšuju bezsravnejja serafim, bez izlenija Boga slova rozšuju. Čestnejšuju keruvim i slavnejšuju bezsravnejja serafim, bez izlenija Boga slova rozšuju.
Inimitable, I think is probably the right word, isn't it? Who else could it be but the Hilliard Ensemble with Jan Garbrek? Their final outing as the Hilliards, of course, basically broke up, or they, sort of came to the end of their time, I think, a year or two back, and they broke up, dissolved, call it what you will. So there will be no more, unless there are some outcuts in the cans or something's been recorded. You never know, lying in the vaults, do you? And it was such a success, the original Officium. This was the last they did in the ECM New Series under the Officium title, and Jan Garbrek and the Hilliard Ensemble with Remember Me, My Dear. And that one was an anonymous hymn or chant originally, Dostojno Est. We should mention them, of course, great singers all. David James, countertenor, Rogers Covey Crump, the tenor, Stephen Harold, tenor, and Gordon Jones, baritone, with, of course, Jan blowing over the top, they would say. Not to everyone's liking. It split people down the middle, didn't it? It was one of those crossover albums, call it what you will, the original one, a dinner party classic. I personally loved them all. I know quite a few of my friends didn't. It was neither classics nor was it jazz. It was somewhere in between, in that third stream, as they say. Works for me, but that's the wonder of music, isn't it? One person's love is another person's hate, as it were. Before that, surely everyone likes Charles Lloyd. Been around for 80-odd years, topping the polls again for Jazzwise for this year's Jazz Record Critics Record of the Year with his latest album, tone poem. The group has been running for a year or two now. Charles on tenor saxophone and flute on that particular case, alto flute. Bill Frisell, of course, on guitar. Greg Leitz on steel guitar. Reuben Rogers bass. And the wonderful and always adaptable Eric Harland at the drums. We heard briefly from Craig Taborn in between there as well, and he's featuring on this next one on keyboards. An album by Scott Colley, architect of the silent moment. Cracking album this, which I know Chris is a great fan of. There's a couple of Scott Colley ones, really, really good. This track's called Strip Mall Ballet. Such a good album, that one. Really good on Crisscross Jazz, I think that is. Scott Colley, architect of the silent moment. One of several I think he brought out. It was Cam Jazz, I beg your pardon. It's Cam Jazz, isn't it? Not Crisscross, Cam. Well, he's done numerous ones. Magic Line, Initial Wisdom, Empire. I think that's another one that we featured on the programme before now, and has played with, who hasn't he played with realistically? Herbie Hancock, Jim Hall, Andrew Hill, Michael Brecker, Chris Potter, Pat Metheny, Carmen Ray, Brian Blade. You get the gist. Everyone who's anyone in the jazz world, pretty much, he's been right up there. And a unique sound he's got, particularly with that lineup, with the harmonica, not an instrument featured that much in jazz, outside of the obvious side of things, I suppose. But yeah, what a great sound. Scott on bass, leading from the bass and composing quite a bit of the music. Ralph Alessi on trumpet, a wonderful player. Craig Taborn on keyboards, the keyboardist of the moment in many ways, and the fantastic Antonio Sanchez on drums. And then guesting on the album, again, wonderful who's who. David Binney on sax, Jason Moran piano, Gregoire Marais on the harmonica, as we heard there, Adam Rogers on guitar. Terrific stuff, well worthwhile. You're listening to Jumpin' In, just H with you today. Sadly, the other cat a bit below the weather, but hopefully get well soon. We'll be back to full strength next week, and we're looking forward to bringing you some of our interviews in our London Jazz specials. Also, a Jumpin' In pop special. Don't get too frightened. Working on that one. Might have done one something similar in the past, but yeah, it's always nice to do pop versions or jazz versions of pop tunes. Coming your way soon. This one came my way. My birthday, actually. Very lucky. It's Oregon. Also lucky to have had a great chat with one of the main players there, of course, Ralph Towner, now 80, playing solo at this year's London Jazz Fest. We had a great catch-up with him. And he said he'd been suffering somewhat with the lockdown and such like, and trying to get back his concert chops, as he said. On great form in any case. This is going way back to 1974. It's something he and Paul McCandless, I think, sort of helped to master. It's a cracking recording of a concert by Radio Bremen in Germany. March the 14th, 1974, Oregon, just called 1974. The album, double album's just come out. The quality of the recording, we played a little bit to Distant Hills a week or two back. I thought we could hear a bit more. This is their take on another classic on the Oregon repertoire, Bourgeois. Great stuff. Can't go wrong with Miles, can you? And particularly with those collaborations with Gil Evans, Miles Davis, Porgy and Bess. And you probably did recognise the tune, of course, the immortal Summertime, given a real fine reading there, I think. And any of those ones, Sketches of Spain or Miles Ahead, you won't go wrong with. Miles, of course, on trumpet, all the arranging by Gil Evans, and you've got the likes of Jimmy Cleveland and Frank Rehak on trombones, Gunther Schuller, the marvellous composer and arranger as well, on French horn, Paul Chambers bass, Philly, I thought it was actually, what's his name on that one? It's Philly Joe Jones. I was going to say it was Jimmy Cobb. Sounds like Jimmy Cobb, doesn't it? It sounds very laid back for Philly Joe, but laid back he was. He could do it at times. Before that, from the Oregon 1974 recently released double CD, which, I was happy enough that some kind of soul gave me for my birthday. No guesses for who that might have been. Bourgeois, wonderful. Ralph Tanner, an interview with him coming up. Don't miss that in the next few weeks on guitar. Paul McCandless on oboe. Colin Walcott, great song. Colin Walcott, sadly no longer with us, on tabla and percussion. And Glenn Moore, who left the group in the end quite recently to pursue other avenues, it seemed, on bass. Now then, this one is a blast from the past as well. You know how you have albums that sort of go back into the mists of time and you think you've forgotten about them. And whilst we were down at the London Jazz Festival, we were having a rummage around a few of our favourite haunts, including Reckless Records in, I think it's Buick Street or Brewer Street, I can never remember which one, in Soho. A great record emporium, still going strong. Support them if you're down there sometime. And I've always enjoyed Billy Hart, and I remember this one on Gramovision back in the day. It's called Oshermare. Still sounds good after all those years. Realistically recorded back in 1985. Wonderful stuff. The album Oshermare on Gramavision with Billy Hart at the drums. Wonderful lineup as well. Billy Hart the drums, Dave Holland at the bass. Yes, we have a chat with him as well, I'd like to point out, coming up your way. Brian Masalis on tenor sax, Steve Coleman on alto, Bill Frisell again, electric guitar, Kevin Eubanks on guitar as well. The great Kenny Kirkland no longer with us on keyboards, Mark Gray on keyboards as well, Didier Lockwood on some tracks and violin, and Manolo Bedrina, who played with Miles as well at one stage at the drums and percussion. Great stuff. I really enjoyed that one. And that track was called, I think, Cosmosis. That's more or less it. Hopefully normal service will be resumed next week with the other cat with the hat back firing on all cylinders. We sincerely hope so, because we've got some great stuff to bring. As I say, we've got our pop special and we have some wonderful interviews for our London jazz specials as well. Going to leave you with a bit of this man. He's got a new album out. I've just downloaded it, hopefully, and see if we can bring it to you. Kjetil Mjølelid. Haven't spoken to him for a while. What You Thought Was Home, and this one's called Homecoming. See you next week.